Well, haven't done a video in a while, been busy with things, and last night I finally saw Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. At the beginning of the year, this was easily my most anticipated movie. This is a movie I've wanted to see for decades, and I didn't like it. I was very, very disappointed with this movie. Even when the negative reviews came out, I still kept some hope that they were wrong, that this movie would actually be good, that the critics maybe just wanted something different than I wanted in this movie, and this movie's vision would work for me. It doesn't. I mean, before you say, "Oh, you just must be a Marvel fanboy who wants superheroes to be all jokey all the time and lighthearted," no, absolutely not. Because the Dark Knight trilogy, the Nolan trilogy of Batman movies, are three of my all-time favorite movies. The Dark Knight itself might be my favorite movie of all time, and that's a dark-themed Batman movie. This movie didn't understand what made those movies work. Obviously, since the Nolan trilogy was successful and well-liked, I guess Warner Brothers and DC thought we just got to make these movies dark, and that's actually a pretty good idea, with Marvel kind of going in a more jokey, fun way. I kind of like that DC was going for a more dark, serious route. It kind of made their movies different and gave their movies their own feel to it, rather than just try to copy what Marvel does. So, in principle, this should have really worked. In practice, it did not. And it's entirely due to this disjointed editing, a disjointed script, and frankly, downright baffling character decisions that were made in this movie's production. Where do I even start with this one? This is the worst version of Superman ever in a movie. And I'm one who even liked Man of Steel. I know Man of Steel had some problems. I didn't think it was great or anything, but I enjoyed the movie more than I didn't. I thought its good aspects outweighed the flaws. This movie had every flaw Man of Steel had, but without the good aspect. Well, but with less of the good aspects and a far more convoluted story. This version of Superman in this movie, like in Man of Steel, for example, you kind of saw a bit of the darkness in him when he destroyed that dude's truck after the dude threw water in his face. I actually kind of like that. It humanized Superman, that he's not just this perfect golden boy, that he does get hurt and he does get angry when he's pushed too far by some jerk. I could imagine if I had his powers, possibly in a moment of rage, doing something similar to that. He wasn't willing to hurt the guy physically, but he clearly was pissed off about being mistreated. It humanized the character. This Superman, though, he just came across as a bully in this movie. Oh, I should just stop. Spoilers, okay, before we move on. Like the scene when he first encounters Batman, stops the Batmobile and threatens him, says, "Oh, the Bat's dead. You can't go out anymore." He doesn't say anything to justify his actions. Okay, his attitude was, "Do what I say because I'm bigger and stronger than you, therefore I win." This scene really could have worked. Him stopping the Batmobile and ripping it apart. They should have had a conversation here. This should have been like a 5 or 6 minute conversation about their different philosophies on crime fighting, why each of the other thinks the other is wrong. Instead, Superman shows up, threatens Batman, Batman threatens him back, and they depart. No character development, no reason for these two people to hate each other. And Lex Luthor, oh my God! Did they screw Lex Luthor up? It comes across like they originally were going to have both the Joker and Lex Luthor in this movie. Like, they originally cast Jesse Eisenberg to play the Joker, and then they changed him to Lex Luthor, but barely changed anything else, because he comes across more like the Joker. The Joker, of course, some men just want to watch the world burn. All right, so just does chaotic, horrible things for the sake of it and for his insanity and for his misanthropic attitude toward life itself, which I thought Heath Ledger's Joker did fantastically and was outlined in A Killing Joke, and I cannot wait for that animated movie. But Lex Luthor is different than that. Like, I grew up really on the Clancy Brown version of Lex Luthor from Superman the Animated Series, and I was so hoping that when they brought in Lex Luthor in a Man of Steel sequel, he would kind of be in the mold of that Superman. Not at all. Not even close. He hates Superman just because. He wants him and Batman to fight just because. He creates a monster that can destroy the entire world just because. He just comes across as a generic psychopath. Like with the Clancy Brown version of Lex Luthor, he wanted to kill Superman because Superman was something that stood in his way to his power and his goals. It stood in the way for his success as a businessman, his national espionage efforts, his various criminal activity, all right, and his lust for power. Superman was a threat to all that. Thus, he was something that needed to be eliminated. All right, that was a clear motivation. With this movie, I have no idea why I hate him. Every speech on why was unbelievably pretentious. A bunch of babble about the nature of gods and demons. It's clear that these writers didn't know what they were talking about. They just thought this stuff sounded philosophical and deep, but if you really think about it, none of it is. This is all pretentious BS. So, were there things I liked about it? Yeah. Affleck did good as Batman. Alright? And the scene where he goes into a warehouse towards in the last act of the movie and fights a room full of thugs. Probably the best action sequence involving Batman ever. I mean, this is a really furious Batman. He uses all kinds of gadgets. He's really quick on his feet. This is a Batman that criminals would fear. Kind of like the Batman Arkham video games. The fights were kind of similar to that, and that really, really worked for me. And I kind of like the nature of his character and the fact that this is a Batman who's been doing this for 20 years and he's been jaded by 20 years of misery dealing with the underbelly of the criminal world. And I could totally understand his motivation for wanting to take on Superman with the destruction at the end of Man of Steel. But the problem is it didn't really develop or explain exactly why. We get a line about how, if there's a 1% chance, then we have to act. But there should have been more to it than that. And more spoilers coming up. The reason why him and Batman decide to put aside their differences and work together at the end, which I knew was going to happen, was stupid as hell. It's painful to even say this. Batman finds out that Superman's mother had the same first name as his mother. And thus, he goes from wanting to kill Superman, stab kryptonite through his heart, to all of a sudden being like, yeah, we're friends now. I'll help you out. I'll help you save your mom. Seriously? Seriously. God. That's all what they could come up with. They were working on this movie for almost 3 years. They had a $250 million budget. They had plenty of time to script this, to plan this, all the resources in the world. That's the best thing they could come up with. Oh, did you know Batman and Superman that their moms had the same name? Well, because of that, now we're friends. It's like if two guys were beating the shit out of each other in the yard, okay? And then one guy says, my favorite movie is The Wizard of Oz. And he's like, really? My favorite movie is The Wizard of Oz, too. Well, in that case, we're best friends. Ugh. The editing is completely disjointed. Scenes just pop in, alright, to explain dozens and dozens of subplots, many of which don't go anywhere, none of which are developed properly, and a lot of these scenes look half-finished. I heard that there's going to be a half-hour longer R-rated director's cut, and I'm really hoping that that cut fixes some of these issues, but I highly doubt it's going to fix all of them. I mean, the end fight scene is pretty good. Wonder Woman was pretty cool, but probably only because she wasn't developed very well. That's obviously all being safe for a standalone movie, so it's fine that she's not developed very well. I know more is being safe for later, but I feel had she been developed better, she would have become less likable, just as the more developed characters in this movie are. And you are damn right that they should have copied Marvel on how to set up future movies, because this movie didn't set them up well at all. See, Marvel would either put the setups in an after-credits sequence that is fully separate from the main movie, or they would integrate a reference in dialogue in a way that's quick, it's fast fire, and it gets the point that hardcore fans can pick up, more casual or general audiences might miss it, but it's there. This movie, in order to set up future movies, have entire long sequences that go absolutely nowhere within the context of this movie. They exist only to set up future projects. And first of all, doing so does not guarantee these future projects will be made. Because we've seen many movies endlessly try to set up future projects and then those future projects get canceled. So you really gotta be self-contained within this movie. And even if it is done well in future projects, it doesn't excuse this movie for being within itself, having tons of scenes that go nowhere and don't serve a purpose. So, yeah. Big disappointment. I have not made up my mind whether I plan to do a loudmouth review of this movie when it comes to video or not. It honestly probably depends on how much I prefer the director's cut of this movie that's coming out. I really look forward to seeing that one, see if how much it improves. I haven't made up my mind, but I can safely say with certainty that they've made big mess-ups in this movie, and this is harsh coming from me because 6 years ago I was like Zack Snyder's biggest fan. I loved 300, I loved Watchmen, and I even kind of liked Man of Steel. Hell, I liked Legend of the Guardians, Owls of Ga'Hoole, that owl movie he made. I even thought that was pretty good. So, prior to this, I had a generally high opinion of Snyder's abilities as a director. I want him fired now. He screwed up too bad. He does not deserve to direct Justice League. David Goyer or whoever else helped write this movie should not pen anything near a Justice League script. Alright? Hell, bring in the guys who made the Justice League animated series from a while back. Bruce Timm and the others, Paul Dini. Bring those guys back. They understand these characters the way Snyder and Goyer just don't. Alright? Frankly, I have no faith in Justice League with these people in charge. Alright? They need new talent. I still want a Justice League movie, but I do not want a Justice League movie that spins on the tone of this movie. So, that said, I recommend not going to see this. I don't recommend supporting this movie. Just because you want a Justice League movie, it doesn't excuse this movie being completely messed up. So, alright, well, but there's more to look forward to this year. We still got Captain America Civil War. Suicide Squad might still be good. But this project, major bummer.